Right, hi guys. Now the other day, if you've watched it, I did a video called Drinking Mead and Shooting Arrows, and it was a celebration of my channel's first birthday. Now, as a result of that video, I did a fair bit of drinking. And once I put the video up, I actually watched a few other videos that I found on YouTube of people and, well, drinking and enjoying and experiencing mead. Now, some of them were completely idiotic. Didn't have a clue what they were talking about in any way, shape or form. Some of them were quite well-meaning. For instance, there were quite a few videos made by whiskey drinkers, a lot of videos made by wine drinkers, wine connoisseurs. The problem was they were all coming at it from the wrong direction. The wine drinkers were drinking it as if and appreciating it as if it's a wine. And the whiskey drinkers, the spirit drinkers, were doing the same thing, but from their point of view. The problem is, it's none of them. Mead is its own thing. Calling mead a wine, or some people even call it a spirit, is like calling whiskey a brandy, or like calling brandy a gin, or calling gin a wine, or calling Pinot Noir a beer. It's just nonsensical. It's its own thing. Mead is quite probably the oldest known alcoholic drink that we have ever used. And there seems to be a great deal of parallel evolution as well, all over the world. Now, I don't know about anywhere else, but here in the British Isles, we know that they were drinking it in the Neolithic. So we're looking at the 9th and 8th centuries BC, a long time ago. And it was fairly commonplace, brewed alongside and in conjunction with various ales and things like that, but a lot of it was drank. Now, like the Irish, the Celts, the Gaels, people like that, their name for it was either Maeve or Meave, which basically means, what was this? It's something like from the valley flowers, which is thought to be a reference to the bees that the honey came from. And Maeve or Meave is like of the valley flowers or something like that, and that's what they call the drink. In Anglo-Saxon, similar sort of name, it was called mead, and that name dates to early Anglo-Saxon, we think, but that's where it actually comes from. What it was called in Scandinavia, I don't know. It might have been something similar to mead, I don't know. But it is its own thing. You can't really compare it to anything else. Right, and as a result of the videos, I've decided that what the world needs is me drinking more mead. And I am going to try and educate's a bit pretentious. I'm going to try and show you and give you an appreciation of mead, how to drink it, how to look after it, basically how to appreciate its uniqueness, because it is a unique thing. There's no other alcoholic drink that I've ever tasted that has a similar sort of thing. The nearest, in terms of the flavor, like the mouthfeel, is maybe sake, but again, it's not quite the same. So anyway, get yourself a bottle of mead. It doesn't matter what it is. There are some nicer than others, but you're not going to know until you actually start drinking one. First thing to do, put it in the fridge. Now, you don't have to put it in the fridge, and it doesn't really affect the flavour, but it affects the sensations. But it doesn't stop you drinking it straight from the bottle if you want. I just think if you're going to learn how to drink mead, and if you want to get the most of it, you need that extra little thing you get from it being cold. Now it won't freeze, it won't crystallise in the fridge, it will just get cold. Now the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have a small glass, a shot glass. A couple of reasons for that. One, it means you can actually have more of it in a longer time scale and you don't get drunk as quickly. Two, when you drink out of a small glass, it forces you to tilt your head back and drink with an open mouth. You can't just, like you would with a bottle of beer or something like that, or even a pint glass where you just literally, you've got to open your mouth slightly in order to drink it. And that allows air to be sucked in along with the liquid, which percolates with the aromas of the mead itself. So, and don't get too much at once. Just get a sort of half mouthful size amount of liquid in your mouth. Let it sit on your tongue. Let it sink down below your tongue, below your gum line. And the first thing you'll notice is the coldness of the liquid for a split second, and then you'll feel the warmth start to come through on the surfaces underneath your tongue and on the side of your gums as well. Now just be aware, if you've got a mouth ulcer or something like that, it's going to sting for a few seconds, but then it'll go off because honey is actually a natural antiseptic and a natural analgesic as well. So it won't last for long. But after your first mouthful, let it move around in your mouth, and then you don't have to keep it in your mouth, you can swallow it. But the first thing you'll notice as it goes down is the sharpness of a heat, a warmth as it hits the back of your tongue and then goes down. And then it sort of spreads forward down the sides of your tongue, down the side of your tongue, and you can feel it in your mouth. Even after it's gone, the liquid's gone, you still feel that. And the saliva starts to build up, and even if you allow the saliva to go down, it will give you another hit of that flavour at the back of your throat. Now the one we're drinking here is the same one I was drinking on the birthday video. Now it's cold, it's been in the fridge, well it's kept in the fridge all the time. So, slunch-up. Now the first thing you notice is as the air hits your tongue and then your honey hits the tongue, you get a really sharp, well not sharp, intense flavour hit. And then like I said, as you swallow it, it goes down the back of your tongue and it takes that hit with you. And then you start to feel the heat underneath your tongue spreading around and coming back forward again as you're moving it around in your mouth. And even the act of talking gets the saliva glands going and you get that feeling again, prolongs the flavour. Now in terms of actual flavour, there's honey there, but it's not sweet. Now this is the thing about honeys. A lot of people will tell you the honey is sweet, it isn't. It's highly calorific, so there is a lot of calories in it, there's a lot of sugars in it, but it's not sweet. It can sometimes be sticky, sticky in the same sort of way as if you lick your finger sticking in a sugar ball, that kind of sticky, but it's not a sweetness. It can sometimes be cloying and quite overpowering, but I wouldn't call it sweet. And mead, generally speaking, isn't sweet either. There are sweet meads out there, but they're actually quite a rarity. Now the flavour itself, there's that honey there. Now you will notice a difference in the honeys that are used. For instance, Lindisfarne mead, which is made on the Northumbrian coast, tastes totally different to the honey that's used in making Scottish meads, like this one. This is a Moniac from Scottish wineries. And you can alter the flavour. The flavours of the meads, unless you're really careful as you're making, can change from year to year to year, because bees can move around and they can settle on different plants, take nectar and pollen from different plants back to the hive, and they make a different honey. So a lot of beekeepers who are supplying wineries to make mead are very careful about where their bees go, because it can affect. This is why in England, a lot of the time you will see beehives in orchards. That way they've got a certain amount of control over the most commonly available pollen and nectar for the honeys to use. Sorry, for the bees to make the honey out of, fruit trees and things like that. Now a lot of meads are made, basically a basic mead is honey and water, which is then fermented. A lot of modern meads actually use an apple juice base to prolong, to reduce the amount of honey that needs to be used, but also to add a little bit of flavour rather than just the water, because mead made purely with water and nothing else can actually be quite boring and staid. It's always been made with other flavours added into it. The Irish particularly, what was it like? They liked one of the worts, I can't remember which one, but they use a lot of spices and herbs mixed in with it. Anglo-Saxons tended to mix fruits in with it, as did the Norse. They tended to mix in fruits that were in season, like juniper, apple, pear, things like that. Brambles. So they would use what was available at the time to make some quite interesting ones. And there are a lot of modern wineries, breweries, who are actually reinventing and rediscovering these flavours. But anyway, back to this one. So you get that flavour, and then when you allow it to trickle back into your throat, at the top of your mouth you do get a sudden sweet hit, and then it goes down and you feel the heat and the warmth spreading. Beautiful drink. Now unfortunately I've drank so much of this in the making of this video, I think it's about the fourth attempt, that I've sort of deadened my nasal receptors. I can still smell it, but it's not as much. And I can feel my tongue thickening slightly as well, getting a little bit tipsy. Oh, but it is a beautiful smell. It's a natural smell, a fresh, clean, country smell. Or at least for me anyway it is. A little bit foresty as well. Now I know I sound like some pretentious wine drinker, wine taster, but honestly, this is the sort of flavours. See, I've never been able to pick up those flavours in wines and things like that. I can sometimes pick up the flavour of hops and things like that in beers, but in mead, I do get all of these flavours. Yeah. Anyway, enough of me rabbiting on. So what I would recommend you do, meads are available all over the place. Now I don't know if you're in Australia or America or New Zealand or wherever, Europe, I don't know what meads will be available to you. But for instance, Cognac, which comes from the Scottish wineries, I'm fairly sure that's available on Amazon. And if it's available on Amazon in UK, it'll be available on Amazon elsewhere. I believe they also do mail order direct from the manufacturers as well. So you can get it, it's worth hunting around. It is a nice one, but I would say it is a good standard mead. Some of the meads we're going to be looking at, I wouldn't call standard. Some of them are quite fancy, quite refined. And we'll be looking at some really old recipe meads, we'll be looking at some new recipe meads, we'll be looking at some budget, some expensive, but over the next however long I decide to do it for, I won't be doing it every week. Depends how quickly I get through that bottle as to when I order another one. But the word has gone out to all friends and family that all I want for Christmas is various different bottles of mead. And they're under instructions to not all buy me the same. Because that's what tends to happen on my birthday. I get 2 or 3 bottles of the Cognac mead. Or there's a couple of others that I get regularly. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to educate you guys about mead. And hopefully have a few laughs about it as well while we're drinking it, and we'll make it a social event. I think we're going to have mead Monday. After today, the next time I do a mead video, it'll be on a Monday. So we'll have a mead Monday, and I'll announce it ahead of time, probably on Social History Sunday or whatever, that we're having a mead Monday. And then you can get your mead out and we can have a little bit of a taste. Anyway, cheers guys, slán shall, to the bees, stay safe, and we'll talk again soon.